When I was a freshman in college, like when I was a first year, I learned that you didn't have to be an expert in something to write a book about it because that's what conducting research is all about. Like part of it is definitely being enough of an expert to obviously get a book deal, but I just when I learned that, it unlocked so many things for me. And around that time was when I started reading Arlie Russell Hochschild, and that was when I understood more about I think I was very prescient because I couldn't put into words at the time why the sociology of emotion meant so much to me. But as time goes on, I met her last year in an elevator, and the concept continues to pervade my brain chemistry, even though it's not entirely clear how or why. But I think over time I've become a bit more attuned to actually understanding why this concept is so powerful to me. And it really stems from the fact that emotions play a huge role in our social construction, but are treated completely individually, are unchecked, and seen as there's a difference between emotions being valid and them being real to me. I use the word real in a different sense than probably I should, but anyways, the validity and the realness of the emotions being contrasted. I'm an extremely emotional person, and these questions bother me a lot and keep me up. And as I continue to live, I see so many opportunities in society and in my life to resolve these questions. Um, I'll give the most standout example to me. It's all about the fact that in this society we operate very logically, but there are very, very strong, maybe even hidden emotions attached to certain things that we consider to be truisms in our society. So, for example, I recently read the Ayala Girl Twitter thread on safety, and I think safety for women is a very big topic that could benefit from a rigorous framework. So, obviously, we know that women's safety in public is a huge issue, and it's a very real issue that inspires huge emotions. And whether or not those emotions or reactions are proportionate isn't something that I'm here to necessarily police. But I think the biggest question is that proportionality and what to do with that. It seems to me, for example, another one is it seems to me, let's say people say news media, might stoke fear or disproportionately report upon certain types of crime, for example, such as people saying that about the car break-ins in San Francisco during 2021, and kind of provoking a mass outcry that was disproportionate to the actual amount of crime. And so the question here is what do we do about disproportionate reactions, a lot of times which might originate in the body and in the individual, in terms of emotion? And I think that's one of the greatest questions of our time. I mean, I don't know, for me personally, another example that I used to think about a lot, and I don't think about too much anymore, but I have some outlets for this now. But I guess what I used to think about a lot is for example, myself, I have very strong emotions attached to money and having guilt spending money or whatever. Yet the fact that these emotions do not heavily correspond to my financial reality, especially in comparison to others that I know of, makes it difficult to share these feelings, and also makes it difficult for me to process them. I think at the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to the idea oh, you shouldn't compare your struggles with others and stuff like that. But it's not really that. Okay, so on the other side of that debate, today I came across a TikTok that was it's kind of insensitive for people who are a bit more class privileged to constantly say they're broke because it's not the same as someone who's low income and who actually can't reach out to any financial resources such as their family if they were really in a bind. And I think all of these are like super valid points. Like I think morally it might not be like the best choice to voice these struggles, but the fact is that these emotions persist and continue to be unprocessed even when they are disproportionate to reality. I think another part of this like financial thing that I actually think is quite interesting is the inability of class privileged people to accept that they're class privileged. And a lot of times in the popular discourse, this comes off as like maybe lower income or people who are more like at the median income are like kind of rightfully like bitter about like these more class privileged people saying like, oh, I'm not rich, like, or like just not feeling, right? Like, so what underlies all of this is feelings, right? Like, to me, it seems very clear that like feelings are what are like underlying this, because there's this feeling of like somehow this feeling of inadequacy, or this feeling of like, even once you've made like hundreds of thousands of dollars, somehow why are these people not able to